He framed me for something I didn't do, just so I'd be forced to leave her. I thought he wanted me out of the way. But turns out, he only did it so I'd meet the girl he thought I truly deserved, his stepdaughter, who'd been quietly in love with me all along. Let me start by saying, I'm sorry if this gets a bit long. My dad passed away when I was 15. By that time, he and my mom weren't very close anymore, so while I was deeply affected, she didn't seem too shaken. I joined the military at 17, and during my first year away from home, my mom remarried. I never really clicked with my stepdad, we just had very different personalities. He often made sarcastic remarks and told me to man up whenever I got upset. It led to frequent arguments. I'll admit, I was just as much to blame sometimes, though it never escalated too far. After nearly 5 years, I was medically discharged. My mom and stepdad welcomed me back home, saying I could stay until I got back on my feet. I offered to pay rent, but they declined. A few days after moving in, my stepdad pulled me aside, just the two of us, and asked what I thought was a fair amount for rent. I was surprised, but since it was his house, we came to an agreement. He never mentioned it in front of my mom, so I figured he didn't want her to know. I didn't ask them for anything, I wasn't bitter, I just wanted to be independent. He had a son from a previous marriage, close in age to me. We didn't have much in common but got along fine. What did sting, though, was that they paid for his school, his car, and even supported him after college while I was asked to pay rent almost immediately. I didn't need the help, but the difference was hard to ignore. I moved out after 3 months and soon met someone I absolutely fell for. It was my first real relationship, and I was over the moon. I was nervous about bringing her home, my mom and I were close, and I worried she might be judgmental, but to my relief, they got along great. My girlfriend didn't have much family of her own, so my mom and stepdad stepped into that role. My girlfriend and my mom became incredibly close, sometimes hanging out just the two of them, and it genuinely made me happy. Even my stepdad grew fond of her, and for the first time, I felt like we were bonding too. I respected him for his background. He built a successful career on his own after being abandoned by his own father. After a year, I knew I wanted to marry her. I told my mom and stepdad, and they seemed thrilled. She already felt like part of the family. My mom gave me the engagement ring my dad had once given her. I couldn't afford much at the time, so I used it to propose, thinking maybe we'd replace it later. But my girlfriend loved it and told me it wasn't a placeholder. That moment was one of the happiest of my life. When we started planning the wedding, my mom and stepdad offered to help financially. It was the first time they'd ever done that for me, and it really meant the world. Fast forward to about 3 months later, I get a call from my stepdad who said I needed to come over. Felt a bit ominous, but I went over there after work. When I got there, my mom, stepdad, stepbrother, and fiancé. I saw her on the couch and could tell she had been crying. I immediately thought someone had died and went to go sit next to her when my stepdad stopped me. He started hitting me with accusations of me cheating on her for our entire relationship. I was puzzled and told everyone there I don't even text any women I'm not related to besides her. Apparently, some girl had gotten my fiancé's number and told her that we were sleeping together for over a year now, but she didn't know I was in a committed relationship. She sent her screenshots of alleged conversations and knew stuff about me that a random person wouldn't know. I, like a fool, couldn't see what was happening in front of me. I was stunned, saddened, and furious. I begged her from across the room to look at my phone and see I'd never done any of that. Her and my mother were both weeping, and I started to cry. My stepdad called me every word he could think of and escorted me out of the house while telling me if he saw me on his property again, he'd call the police. I spent weeks trying to reach out, calls, texts, voicemails, every messaging app one could think of, but got nothing in return. Then, out of the blue, my stepdad called just to tell me to stop trying to contact my ex and that I was no longer welcome in his house or around his family ever again. I tried getting in touch with my mom after that, but she didn't respond either. After about a month of silence, the only thing I received was a brief message from her, saying she was sad and disappointed. That was it. Since my mom didn't have much family of her own, they always spent holidays with my stepdad's side, and they all cut me off too. I saw their Christmas photos online, everyone smiling, my ex-fiancée included. She looked happy, which devastated me. The only family who would even speak to me was my dad's brother and his family. Even then, they kept a bit of distance except my uncle. He was the only one who genuinely believed me. Honestly, I don't think I would have made it through without him. He gave me the kind of fatherly support I never knew I needed, and I'm more grateful to him than I could ever express. About 6 months after everything fell apart, I left the East Coast and moved to California, needing space and a fresh start. Nearly a year after relocating, I got a call from a number back home, something that didn't happen much anymore. It was my stepbrother. I hung up on him immediately. He tried again, and I ignored it, but the call stuck with me all day. When he called again that night, I picked up. The conversation was awkward, to say the least. He told me that my ex had been really broken up after the breakup. It took her nearly a year before she even started dating again. For the record, I still haven't dated since. A few months into her trying to move on, my stepdad encouraged him to ask her out. He did, and while they went on a few dates, it never really clicked. At some point, my stepbrother told my stepdad it wasn't going anywhere, and in response, that man had the nerve to say, "I didn't get rid of OP for nothing. She's a great girl, you need to figure it out with her." I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me, followed immediately by pure rage. That's when he admitted it. My stepdad had convinced a girl, someone I still don't know, to pretend she had an affair with me. He even forged screenshots of fake messages and had her send them to my ex-fiancée. My stepbrother said he'd found out about it a month ago and had been wrestling with it ever since. Eventually, his guilt got the better of him, and he couldn't sit on it any longer. He told me he planned to tell my mom and my ex the next day, but wanted to give me a heads up first, so I could prepare. I gave him my location and asked him not to have anyone contact me right away. I needed time to process everything. That was last Tuesday. Tonight, I texted him and let him know I'm ready to talk, if they're willing. I told him they could call me tomorrow. I have no idea what's going to be said. I'm expecting tears, probably a flood of apologies. But as for forgiveness? I'm not sure I'm ready to offer that yet. So far, the only person I've told is my uncle, and I asked him to keep it between us. And yeah, my therapist picked the worst week to go on vacation, so I really just needed to let this out. Update. Sorry for the delay, work was hectic today, and honestly, my mind's been overwhelmed. My stepbrother called this morning and explained everything that happened over the past week. Turns out, what my stepdad said before wasn't the whole story. My stepbrother clarified that he had chosen his words carefully, strongly implying what he had done without actually admitting it so as not to incriminate himself. Now, my stepbrother is way smarter than me. Instead of confronting our mom and my ex-fiancée directly, which would have likely ended in yelling and denial, he took a route I wouldn't have thought of. He got hold of my ex's phone and managed to trace the girl who made the fake cheating call. It took him a while, but eventually, he tracked her down and arranged to meet her in public. She turned out to be a Tinder match of my stepdad's, which, by itself, suggests he was cheating on my mom. That alone made my blood boil. She claimed they never slept together, though honestly, I don't even care whether that part's true. What matters is that my stepbrother told her the whole story and appealed to her conscience. For the record, she clearly knew what she was doing at the time, but maybe hearing what I'd gone through finally got to her. She confessed. She was paid $1,000 to make that fake phone call. My stepdad gave her the script and the photos to make it convincing. My stepbrother asked if she would come forward and tell my mom and ex-fiancé the truth. He even offered to pay her again, but she agreed to do it for free. That happened yesterday, while my stepdad was away on a business trip. So it was just the four of them: my mom, my ex, my stepbrother, and the girl. She told them everything, and according to my stepbrother, the tears started immediately. All three of them. Afterward, he told them I was living in California and that he'd let them know when I was ready to talk. This was before I texted him. Now, for some context on my mom and ex, not to excuse their behavior, but just to give a fuller picture. After my dad died, my mom and I were incredibly close. We were each other's support system. But when I was 16, I started drinking to numb everything. I told her we'd spend New Year's together that year, but instead, I went out and got wasted with friends. She spent the night alone. I got a text from her saying how sad she was to be by herself, and from that moment on, something between us shifted. I felt awful and quit drinking, at least until everything in my life later unraveled. She's always needed someone by her side. When her love with my dad faded, I think I filled that emotional space. And when I left home, my stepdad filled it instead. As for my ex, she came from a rough background and didn't have much family. She had serious trust issues, thanks to some horrible past relationships, but she never badmouthed her exes, which I admired. One of them had been physically abusive. That was the only time she ever really opened up about it. I've always been extremely shy, but people often told me I was cute, especially younger girls, younger than me, not underage. I never liked that label, it didn't feel masculine, but I came to accept it. My fiancé was about 3 years older than me. I've always been drawn to older women, so I never paid much attention to the younger girls who flirted with me. Still, the attention bothered her. She'd often ask why I stayed with her, why I didn't go after someone younger or prettier. I always told her how beautiful I thought she was, way out of my league, really, and that no one else mattered to me. Okay, sorry to get off track. That again I hope brings a little insight to why I think they did what they did and believed what they believed. Again, this is not an excuse for them, nor am I really all that understanding personally. At the end of the call with my brother, he said they both wanted to call today, and I told him that'd be fine. So, I sat and waited. By about 3 p.m. I was a little confused. I started to wonder if he'd made it all up to mess with me. It really worried me honestly. I got a text from him asking if I was all good. I said yeah, and asked if they were actually planning on calling today. He said they'd been trying for the last few hours. I'd blocked them both when I moved out west and forgotten. Why I didn't block him, I don't know. I'm thankful I didn't though. I unblocked them both and got a call from my mom about 10 minutes later. The first thing my mom said when she heard my voice was that I sounded different. Honestly, I almost hung up right there. It took everything in me just to say, yeah. She broke down right after that. I thought I'd feel more than I did, but the pain of everything we've been through hit harder than her actual words. She asked if I'd gotten any of her messages. I hadn't. I'd blocked her number, though apparently she'd been texting over the past year. If she truly wanted to reach me, she could have found a way. That might sound harsh, but it's the truth. I told her that I'd be open to rebuilding some kind of relationship over time. She was grateful for that. She also mentioned that she was getting her belongings out of the house before my stepdad returned and would be filing for divorce immediately. And honestly, I believe her. I may not see her as much of a mother anymore, but she's never been the type to do things halfway. A part of me really wishes I could see the look on that bastard's face when he comes home to an empty house. Then my ex-fiancée got on the phone. Her apology was tearful, too, just like my mom's, but this one hit a little harder. I reminded her of how many times I told her I'd never betray her and how deeply I loved her. She was beside herself, and to be honest, I'm glad it affected her. We ended up talking for about half an hour, and oddly enough, it felt pleasant. Even though I'd told myself for over a year that I'd never go back, I found myself wondering if something might still be there. She mentioned that she still had the engagement ring, and that hit a nerve. I told her to give it to my mom because it didn't belong to either of us anymore. That seemed to devastate her, and selfishly, I wanted it to. She asked if she could call or text, and I said that was okay, but not to expect quick responses. I gave her the same terms as I did my mom, except I made it clear that any future between us was extremely unlikely. She said she understood. I ended the night by talking to my brother. I thanked him for everything. His actions meant more than I can say. He was still helping my mom pack up and leave the house. He apologized for what happened and said he planned to inform the rest of the family too. Honestly, I don't care to speak to any of them, except maybe my stepdad's mom. She's the oldest in the family and was the only one who still reached out with a happy birthday and Merry Christmas this past year. Maybe it's age, maybe it's empathy, but I'll talk to her. As strange as that might sound. Sorry for the long ramble. I'm flying home for my uncle's 60th birthday during the first week of March. It'll be my first time back since I moved out here. I plan to see my brother. As for my mom and ex, I'm not completely opposed to seeing them either, but I've made it clear they both have healing to do, and so do I. If anything changes, I'll give an update after that trip home, but for now, that's where things stand. Also, this is the only social media I still use. I haven't been active much over the past year for reasons I'm sure you can imagine. I haven't come across any stories quite like mine that people have mentioned in the comments, but if you've got links, I'd genuinely be interested in reading them. I'm also happy to answer any questions about what happened as best I can. Thank you, truly, to everyone. Update. I got a call earlier from an unfamiliar number back home. Since I deleted most contacts I wasn't actively speaking with, I didn't recognize it, but I answered anyway. It was my stepfather. As soon as he said hello, I hung up and blocked the number. Right after, I checked in with my mom, fiancé, and brother. Thankfully, they're all safe and not near him. My mom is staying at a hotel he doesn't know about, and both my fiancé and brother are at their respective homes and feel secure. He's never shown signs of violence, but we're not taking any chances. My brother told me that my stepfather called him earlier in the day after discovering my mom was gone and not responding to his attempts to reach her. My brother explained everything and firmly told him not to contact any of us. I'm not sure how long he waited before trying again, but around 3 p.m. Pacific time, he called me. Then, about an hour ago, I got a message from a different number that just said, "We need to talk." I'm assuming it's him. I haven't replied. That's where things stand for now. Update. My stepdad's mother called me today. I still had her number saved, for the reasons I mentioned before. At first, I was a little concerned it might have been him using her phone to try and get information, but thankfully, that wasn't the case. She's genuinely a kind and gracious woman, someone who had no obligation to treat me well, yet has always shown me warmth and compassion. She was incredibly kind during the call, expressed her well wishes, and even apologized on behalf of the family. I sincerely thanked her and returned the kind words. Honestly, it's surprising that he came from someone like her. Update. Hey everyone, sorry for the delay, work's been hectic and I only just got back home this past weekend. I held off on responding to that message, which turned out to be from my stepfather. Curiosity eventually got the better of me, so I called him. Per some great advice here, I used a separate app to record the call. I wish I could say the conversation gave me some sort of closure, but honestly, it didn't. Just hearing his voice made my skin crawl. He opened with a casual, "How are you?" and I cut straight to the point. He laughed, unsurprisingly said nothing incriminating, and the whole call lasted about 3 minutes. I asked why he couldn't just let me be with her, and he said I wasn't man enough, and that someone like her would have been wasted on me. His mindset is extremely old school and misogynistic, which just goes to show how little he actually knew about our relationship or her. My ex has always rejected traditional gender roles. She has a great career, never wanted to be a stay-at-home anything, and she took the lead in a lot of aspects of our relationship. So his comment just highlighted his ignorance. Anyway, the call went nowhere, and I told him not to contact me again before hanging up. As for the trip home, I went back for my uncle's birthday party last weekend. The family was warm, welcoming, and offered sincere apologies for not being more supportive during everything that happened. They were never hostile, so I hold no hard feelings toward any of them. My brother and I arranged for me to meet with my mom and ex at his place that Wednesday evening. That night unfolded pretty much as expected, lots of tears and heartfelt apologies. I met with each of them individually. My mom has already filed for divorce, which I respect and appreciate. Our talk was decent, still a bit strained, but it feels like we are at least moving in a better direction. My brother and I had a good face-to-face conversation, the first in a while. He apologized for everything that happened, and I accepted it. You can tell he genuinely regrets how it all played out, and I'm grateful for the effort he's made to help set things right. I don't hold anything against him. As for my ex, we spent most of the night talking. We've actually been speaking over the phone for the past couple of weeks, so it wasn't a total reconnection, but seeing each other in person added a layer we hadn't had in a long time. We're clearly different people now, having been apart for over a year. A lot of the conversation was just catching up, but we also dug into the heavy stuff, everything that happened, and how much it hurt. She told me she's already been seeing a therapist and asked if I'd be willing to attend a session with her. She's really gone out of her way the past few weeks to make amends and do the hard work, and I genuinely appreciate that. I went with her to therapy, and it turned out to be a really productive session for both of us. Her therapist also seemed grateful that I showed up. Afterward, we talked for a while longer and I asked if she'd like to go out with me on Saturday night. I'm not sure where things are going from here, but I wanted to acknowledge the effort she's made. And honestly, I'd like to spend some time with her in a setting that isn't filled with tension or regret. So that's where things stand right now. Haven't seen my stepfather or his family since I've been home, and that's for the best. I really appreciate all the support you've given me. I'll share any updates if things shift again. Update. The date went really well, we had a great night. We grabbed dinner and then hit up an arcade, something we used to do pretty often. It was actually my first real date in almost a year and a half, and I genuinely had a good time. Afterward, we went back to her place and spent some time talking. We're planning to figure out what the next steps look like this week before I head back to California. The long-distance aspect will definitely be the toughest part, but I think that space might actually help us stay grounded and not fall back into old patterns too quickly. Really appreciate all the continued support from everyone, thank you. Update. A lot of people were asking for an update, thanks, TikTok, so here it is. I've stayed in touch with my brother, mom, and ex. My brother and I still talk regularly, and things between my mom and me have been improving. There's definite progress, and I'm genuinely glad she's back in my life, even if it'll take time for her to feel like a true mom again. As for my ex and me, we spent a lot of time figuring out what made the most sense. She even flew out to visit me in California, which meant a lot. Right now, though, we've decided not to be together, and honestly, I think that's the healthiest choice for the time being. When it comes to my former stepfather, I have no real updates. He made a few attempts to reach out to my mom, but she never gave him the opportunity to talk. Thankfully, he hasn't tried contacting me, and I really hope it stays that way. On the life front, I recently moved back east for a new job. I'm still a few states away from my family, which I think is a good balance. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer. Thanks again for all the support through this whole roller coaster.